Hello, this is the May 2012 video edition of the Iowa General Fund Monthly Revenue Memo. I'm Jeff Robinson, Senior Fiscal Analyst for the Iowa Legislative Services Agency, the nonpartisan support agency of the Iowa Legislature. This video will cover the 11 months of cash fiscal year 2012, July through May, and I will also discuss recent and historic U.S. job growth statistics. Iowa net general fund revenue increased 1.6% in May when compared to May 2011. With sales tax posting another very good gain, corporate tax slightly positive, and individual income tax receipts negative for the month. While the low overall net general fund growth rate and the negative income tax readings may seem disappointing, they come after a substantial increase posted in April. So the low and negative readings are an indication of faster income tax submittal and processing this year versus last. Turning to the situation year to date, net revenue has increased 4.1%, and for comparison, the March Revenue Estimating Conference, or REC, net revenue estimate for the fiscal year is positive 2.6%. Annual growth this fiscal year has been understated by a cigarette tax allocation change enacted during the 2011 legislative session. This change deposited the first $106 million of fiscal year 2012 cigarette tax to a fund outside of the state general fund. If I recalculate that March REC estimate without cigarette and tobacco tax revenue in the math, the estimated growth for the fiscal year adjusts to 4.8%. If I also calculate the year-to-date net general fund revenue growth rate without cigarette and tobacco tax, actual growth through May is 6.4%. So ignoring the cigarette and tobacco tax deposit change, actual growth is now 1.6 percentage points above the most recent REC projection. I will now take a look at net receipts by month over the most recent 13 months. For the following charts, the underlying numbers have not been adjusted for any calendar, law change, or processing issues. Revenue increase months are colored blue and decrease months are red. Although the 1.6% increase for May is low, it actually represents good news because it means that the large increase experienced in April was not just a timing illusion, and over the past 3 months, net general fund receipts have increased a strong 8.2%. Individual income tax revenue is the most significant source of general fund revenue. May 2012's negative 3.1% growth comes after a positive 17.7% reading for April. The large April increase, followed by a negative May, was caused by calendar issues. The due date for income tax returns was May 2nd last year and April 30 this year. Individual income tax growth over the past 3 months is a respectable 4.5%. The withholding tax deposit component of individual income tax grew 6% in May, and the year-to-date growth is now 3.4%, low by historic standards, but better than recent history. Sales and use tax revenue continues to be a surprise, growing 7.9% in May and 5% year-to-date. Sales and use tax has now posted gains in all but one of the months this fiscal year. Corporate tax deposits posted a small gain and have now increased 11 of the past 13 months. Corporate tax revenue has experienced a substantial turnaround starting with the huge gain last May, depicted on the left side of this chart. On June 1st, the U.S. Labor Department released the most recent U.S. jobs numbers. The seasonally adjusted non-farm payroll series indicated job growth of 69,000 for May. This May number is subject to revision with next month's release. But absent substantial positive revisions, this will mark the second month in a row of sub-100,000 job increases. The U.S. economy has posted 20 straight months of payroll gains, but at 77,000 and 69,000 respectively, April and May are two of the weaker ones. This raises the question of whether a new trend is in place and perhaps more of the same, or even worse, is in the near future. This graph shows the growth numbers in thousands for the past 20 months. We can see that while the most recent 2 months are not encouraging, a growth decline occurred in May through August 2011, but strong job growth did return after that. The second graph shows the jobs recovery after the recession of the early 2000s. This graph shows 4 separate periods where 2 months in a row recorded sub-100,000 job increases, and it is only the final time, July and August 2007, where one could conclude that the job increase dip was a precursor to an upcoming recession, with the next U.S. recession starting December of 2007. The final graph shows a longer-term look at U.S. job growth, with this graph starting as the economy recovered from the recession of the early 1990s. This graph shows that the non-farm payroll statistic is not consistent, even in a strong recovery. There are periods of reported low growth, followed by periods of high growth throughout normal economic expansions. To summarize, May 2012 was a mildly positive month, but after the outsized increase experienced in April, the May data should be considered entirely good news. The fiscal year-to-date growth in individual income tax withholding deposits continues to be low compared to other economic recoveries. The rate of growth has been improving recently, however. All other main sources of general fund revenue are solidly positive this fiscal year. And finally, while U.S. job growth has posted 2 subpar months in a row with April and May readings, it will likely take 1 or more additional sub-100,000 job growth months before the statistic will become a clear indicator of a troubled economic future. I very much appreciate your time and interest in Iowa General Fund revenue. Goodbye, and please check out the next monthly video memo that will be posted in early July.